Thank you for joining us here on the Neutral Zone. I am Phil Milani, joined as always by my esteemed colleague, my partner in crime, no longer my quarter zip companion. His name is Aric DiLalla.
Yeah, Phil, that didn't work, huh?
It did not work.
We tried.
We're done with it.
We tried. we said we'd look at the film. We'd do whatever it took to try to get a win.
Yeah.
We tried to introduce quarter zip companion.
And it worked. It was like close, but ultimately not good enough.
Right. We were what did Sean Payton say? Disappointed but not discouraged.
Yeah, there you go.
I will continue to wear quarter zips.
I will too, except the only problem was that like today it's going to be like 85 degrees here or something.
Oh.
It's like something insane. It's the middle of October and it's like really hot outside.
What do you think that is?
Really impossible to tell, I think. Yeah.
No sort of science or anything.
Impossible to tell. But
I, of course, choose what I'm going to wear based off the previous day's weather.
Of course.
Yeah, that's...
Or some people I know, they like to wear clothing always for what the indoor is going to be. Indoors are going to be like.
Yeah.
I disagree with this. If it's hot outside, I dress accordingly. If it's cold outside, I dress accordingly. Even though the majority of the workday is spent indoors.
Well, and there are professional standards to maintain.
Of course.
Have to be.
I don't wear swim trunks around.
No, not so. You wouldn't wear sweatpants to work.
Yes. I would not wear like my pajamas.
No, you wear pants.
Yeah. Like a stocking cap and my full pajama.
You ever do that? Show up with your mug of cocoa.
And a nice cocoa. Yeah. Some hot milk.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, NZ Nation, they know the hot milk.
They know.
Anyway, we'll talk a little bit about what happened in that game. We've had a weekend to digest it, to sort of...
digestive.
Exactly.
So to speak.
Let it, just calm the stomach a little bit.
Yep.
And wrap our minds around it. Yeah. Although in the locker room, I heard some people were asking questions. Have you wrapped your finger around this? And that's not that was being asked to several players.
By whom?
I don't really want to say.
Okay.
But it was being asked to every player. But that's obviously a philism where you
can put your finger on something.
Put your finger on it and you wrap your mind
around it.
Correct.
I guess you could wrap your finger around something.
But it's not a saying.
No.
Can you wrap your finger around this? That's not a saying.
No.
But it was being asked to every player.
Okay, how about I just start naming media members and you blank on it?
Anyway, so we've had our time. We've had a little bit of time to wrap our fingers around this.
Okay, perfect.
And heard from Sean Payton on this Monday morning talking about it. And after the game, one of the things he said was, hey, to win in this league, we're going to have to be able to pass the ball better than we did on Thursday night. That was sort of the sentiment from Sean Payton. And he sort of explained that a little bit more on Monday morning.
Whoa.
What day is it?
Seeing it in the future.
Monday morning.
Yeah, Phil. I think some people took that after the game as a direct criticism of Russell Wilson, maybe. Russ did not have his best game. He was the first to admit that after the game, said his 2 interceptions can't happen, unacceptable. He's got to be better. But on Monday, Sean Payton dove into that a little bit more and said, no, it really wasn't a reflection on one player. It's a reflection on everybody, from the protection to the quarterback play, to the wide receivers getting open, to the coaches putting them in the right scheme to get open, to running the ball effectively when you have that chance. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that because the Broncos were, again, pretty efficient running the football. But Sean Payton is right in that even if you're not taking these deep shots like we've seen at times this season, or not having the explosive plays, you still have to then be able to connect on the short ones, the quick ones. One way or another, you have to find a way to move the ball through the air. Otherwise, as Sean Payton said, it's just hard to compete in this league the way it's currently constructed, the way the rules are set up, the way you've got to keep pace with opposing offenses. You have to find a way to do that. And what's interesting is that early in the game, Phil, not early, the first drive, the Broncos looked kind of like they were doing that. They were running the ball well, a couple nice passes, and then things kind of bogged down. And then it felt like they never found that same sort of rhythm or ability to execute until essentially the final drive when Cortland Sutton, I know it wasn't technically the final drive, but the final meaningful drive where Cortland Sutton is able to score the touchdown.
Yeah.
And so they've got to figure that out because part of this season, winning football games is obviously still a big part of it, but you've also got to figure out what is the plan moving forward, right? And to evaluate a lot of guys, you've got to see the passing game be executed at a higher level, I think.
Yeah. And it just felt like the Broncos never were able to get into like sort of a rhythm again. And that's like the second game in a row that we've sort of been talking about, like finding rhythm and being able to stay out on the field. Sean Payton on Monday said that, look, we got to be better early in downs, in like first and second down, so that they have a chance to just sort of get into a rhythm here and not. They didn't play well on third down on Thursday night, and time of possession was not great for the Broncos there. And look, when you play the Chiefs, that offense is so explosive on the other side for the Chiefs that I think for their defense, you just say, hey, look, if we don't give up big plays, we're going to be all right here. Eventually, we're just going to win the game. And, I think one of the hard things for the Broncos and one of the things that maybe they're going to have to figure out, and Sean Payton said, hey, look, we got to find a way to get these guys open, is that, like, look, like a guy like Jerry Jeudy, he needs to be a factor in the game every single week. And like when you face the Chiefs, you know that Travis Kelce, one way or another, is going to impact the game. And he certainly did that in the first half, even though he had a bum ankle. He was still able to, I think he had more than 100 yards receiving in the first half, had a major impact on the game. And, a guy like Jeudy is talented enough to have some sort of an impact every single week. And I think that's the Broncos' challenge is, like, how do we get the Broncos playmakers? How do you get these guys to impact the game every single week? And, that's one of the things that they're going through right now is like, hey, even Sean Payton was asked about Marvin Mims, and he was like, look, we got to figure this thing out because they got Cortland Sutton, they got Jerry Jeudy, they got Marvin Mims, they've got guys. How do you make it so that they're an impact? And because I think it's easy to just point your finger at Russ and be like, oh, he didn't play well enough. But like some of the tape that the broadcast was showing, they're like, there aren't guys open for him to throw the ball to. And so there's nobody open. What is he supposed to do? And he's facing pressure, from elite talent like Chris Jones.
Yeah. And what stood out to me, Phil, as you know, the press box in Arrowhead is, I think it's on the moon.
It's way up there.
High up there.
It's way, so you kind of have like a bird's eye view.
You
like
essentially are almost looking down on the field, and so you can see kind of how things develop. It's almost like you're watching little toy figures move around down there.
Yeah.
It's very different than almost every other press box where it feels like you're watching football players play football. Mm-hmm. This is like, it's like watching the dots. You've seen that on Twitter where they put the dots out?
Yeah, it's like this is the passing chart.
Yeah. Well,
where the dots move?
The dots move.
Yeah. I've seen
that's
that too.
What watching from
Next
the press
gen.
box. Exactly.
Yep.
That's what watching from the press box in Arrowhead is like.
Did you see the numbers or no?
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just hard to. You kind of know what guys look like and builds and that sort of thing, so you can kind of tell. But I had to use binoculars to see numbers.
Like, that's Russell Wilson.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But what stood out to me, Phil, is that when the Chiefs have the ball, it's almost like there's even on the plays where the Broncos got pressure or had a positive play, things just kind of flow. And it doesn't feel like they're panicked, and it's almost like it's slow developing. Just it's like a nice, gentle, relaxed sort of thing. It's almost like you're watching like some sort of play or
like at the spa.
Yeah, it's just like it's everything.
Nice music's going.
Everything is just
the
really
symphony.
Exactly, it's orchestrated well. And then when the Broncos are on offense, from that at least on Thursday night, things just developed so much more quickly. Like, boom, there's somebody in the backfield a lot more quickly than than it was when the Chiefs were on offense. Or, hey, Russ is out of the pocket a lot more quickly than Patrick Mahomes was. Or, this defender is in the hole on a run attempt more quickly. And everything seemed a little more rushed. And I don't know how you necessarily, I'm not an expert there. Like, I don't know how you fix
Yeah.
that, but that was kind of my observation, was just that when offenses are playing well, you feel like it's really hard to, like, some offenses, when they're clicking, the Dolphins, the Chiefs, the Eagles, when they're playing well, the Niners, you're like, gosh, how do we stop these guys from not getting 5 yards a play?
Every play, yeah.
And the Broncos on Thursday night were struggling to find that rhythm. There were times in the run game where it looked good, and Sean Payton talked about against New York that he got away from the run game a little too quickly. Certainly the second interception that Russ threw, the Broncos were running the ball well. I think had a chance there, and then a pick kind of quickly changes things. They've got to find a way, I think, to play that, to get into that rhythm that you kind of see when the Chiefs play offense. It's easier said than done, but it was kind of evident that they weren't in that same sort of rhythm. And then the question becomes, with a Judy, with a Sutton, with a Mims, Javonte Williams, how do you find that and then consistently have that through 4 quarters? Because even when we've seen them play good offense, second half against the Bears, first half against the Commanders, first half to an extent against the Jets, it's been hard to sustain it. And that might be part of this process, Phil, of year 1 under Sean Payton, of him figuring out what he's working with, which guys fit what he wants to do. Does he need to alter what he needs to do at all? Those sorts of things that eventually will help you find success, because it's been a struggle the last couple of weeks. Yeah,
and it has been like the inconsistency. It's even been like for the whole team, because like one week the offense will play really well, but the defense won't. And then on Thursday night, it seemed like a little bit vice versa, where especially in the red zone, the defense played much better. They did a better job stopping the run against the Chiefs. And I think if you hold Kansas City under 20 points, you did a pretty good job. But the offense just wasn't clicking. And so, I think the hard thing, and we've talked about this a little bit, Aric, is that we've seen a lot of good, but we haven't seen it all together, and we haven't seen it consistently. So I think that has been difficult because and frustrating. And I think that frustrating is like sort of a word that Sean Payton used to describe Jerry Jeudy too. Is like, I think there's a lot of frustration because the talent is there. We've seen the flashes there, but it hasn't led to wins, and it hasn't led to everybody doing it all at the same time. And so these are growing pains, it feels like, Aric. And I think the fan base, when you're at 1-5, and certainly Sean Payton's been getting a lot of questions now about the trade deadline coming up. And he says, look, we're not thinking about that. We're focused every week on winning games. And I think that's the only thing you can do. If you're a player and your name is being rumored around there or whatever, you can't pay attention to that kind of stuff. You just got to get ready to play the Packers. And it seems like that's what the Broncos are focused on doing now.
Yeah, you've got to play with good effort. You've got to establish an identity. You've got to find ways to build habits that winners have, even if you're sitting in a spot where you're 1-5 and it looks bleak for this season. I think you've still got to have the right approach. And we've heard guys like Mike McGlinchey talk about what it means to be a professional and come in every day. And you never know when a win will either spark things or teach you something about yourself or get you going in the right direction. But you're right, the consistency has to develop at some point if this team wants to find more success, because we've seen it in flashes. And this game against the Chiefs is interesting because we've talked before, Phil, about you hold them to under 20 points, but there wasn't a time where they were really pressured, in terms to score.
Yeah. It felt like the Chiefs were doing a lot of let's see what happens if we try a hook and ladder, and then they tried the hook and ladder, or let's see what happens if we do something like this. It didn't feel like, the Chiefs were we got to get a touchdown on this drive and let's go out there and do whatever it takes to get that. That situation never came up during the game.
Right. And the one drive where they did need a score was that last drive, hey, let's put get a field goal to make this a 2-possession game again. They were able to go down and do that. And the defense made it tough, right? Like a 50-plus yard field goal. I think you live with that in terms of, especially with the wind swirling the way it was. But I don't know. Again, I do appreciate the message of disappointed but not discouraged because you played
There was
well.
some good.
And I think that at a certain point, you can't just hammer the team every week.
Every week.
You know, at some point, you've got to build them up and develop some belief that you can get this going. But there's definitely there has to be that consistency. And for a while, it seemed like, oh, if the defense can just figure it out, this team can be pretty good. And then it seemed like, at least this last week, the defense took a big step toward figuring it out, and the offense was unable to kind of match that performance. And so now you've had these 3 days to kind of reflect, and I would imagine the Broncos treat it almost like a mini bye in terms of evaluating and self-scouting and that sort of thing. And now you got to find a way to kind of reset here. And Phil, I think you've almost got to treat this like a little mini 2-game season here where you put a lot of stuff behind you, and you just focus on moving forward and seeing what happens. Because when you have this many losses, you're 1-5, I don't think you can think about it holistically.
No, you got to focus 1 week at a time here. And it is nice that the bye week is there so you could sort of say, look, we got 2 opportunities to go out there and do what we need to do. And, yeah, it's just I think last week we had been talking about like how it's good to get back on the field and play after a disappointing loss against the Jets. At the same time, when you lose those 2 games, it's like boom, boom. And it's like really fast. That I was thinking like Sunday morning when I woke up and I was just sort of reflecting and just sort of
your daily meditation.
Exactly. Thinking about things. I was like, wow, the Broncos at this point just last week were 1-3. And they had an opportunity to go out and do something, get back on track here. But now, as I'm sitting here, nestled in bed.
Oh, you meditate, warm. You do the nestling.
Well, I was cozy, and I was like, yeah, let's just do this. So as I like sort of just
stocking cap,
ease into the day a little, I was like, wow, it's already...
Child screaming.
Yeah, exactly. I'm in my Zen. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, buddy.
Waffles will wait.
Yeah.
That's
go get your own chocolate milk.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, wow, now they're 1-5, and it just kind of gets quickly here. So I think don't worry about that at this point now. Let's just try to focus on improving, Eric, and I think that's the only approach that you can take. And I'm curious, what do you think about this? Because I was talking to Rod Smith.
Okay.
And I was like, hey, what do you think? What's something, what do you think about this? And he goes, oh, I'm curious. Do you think that the guys are like taking it personally? And like this weekend, they played Thursday night. You get a couple of days here to regroup. How many of them do you think are like taking it personally and getting into their iPads and being like, I know it's an off day, but I don't care. I got to get better. I got to figure out. Do you think the guys on this team are taking that approach, or do you think it's more like I need to check out for a few days?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to, I don't want to guess in terms of what guys are doing. I'm sure there's some guys that feel like, hey, I need to get and look at this film and get ready for Green Bay, and the way I prepare is to go ahead and do that. And there might be some guys that say I need to shut off for 2 days and kind of come back fresh. And I'm not going to kind of doubt
blast guys.
Well, I'm not going to doubt either approach, because there are some guys that might be doing that nonstop, and you need the mental refresh of a couple of days off and coming back in on Monday and getting ready for a Packers team that they've shown the ability to play really good football.
Yeah, and they're coming off a bye week.
Yep, so they're rested. I do think there's something to the rest element, and obviously if you were
a reset button, sort of sort of thing. Yep.
Like certainly if you were able to win a couple of these other ones, and you talked about last Sunday morning, you wake up 1-3, chance to be 3-3 in 5 days. It goes the other way. I do think there's a benefit of getting away from it for a couple of days, and being able to almost just say, okay, that's what happened. We know what we need to improve moving forward. Let's focus on that instead of get caught up in being 1-5. Unfortunately, staring at a big hole that will be difficult to climb out of. But you just got to focus on getting a win. And I don't know how much. I guess there's diminishing returns at some point.
If you're just angry and you're frustrated,
and you're frustrated and you're like mired in just the fact that, we had expectations of going to be a playoff team and we're 1-5.
Yeah.
Several of those games, 3 of them really could have gone either way.
Yeah.
And you think, that's the frustrating part if you're a player, if you're a fan, is that, and I know that, as Russell Wilson said, shoulda, coulda, wouldas is not a way to live, but there's a lot of AFC teams that are just kind of clumped up there at 3-2, 3-3. We saw the Bengals start 0-2, and they've won 3 of their last 4. And
kind
of
3-3 now.
The sentiment is like, they've got everything in front of them.
Yeah.
And the fact that the Broncos are not able to at least put themselves in that situation is the frustrating part. But again, I think if you get lost in that and are purely focused on that element of it, you're not doing yourself any favors as you're trying to go get a win this week. And so I think there's a little bit of closure, maybe you'd hope, after this mini bye, and that you're able to move forward and find some success.
Yeah, and maybe you redefine your goals a little bit. And I think that there's a way for this team to do stuff this season where come January, you feel okay about stuff. And I think that can be the focus now. And look, maybe at 1-5, you've put yourself in a tough spot. But what if every week you start to improve a little bit? And what if you're consistently scoring a lot of points out there, or some of these guys are consistently making big plays and it feels good. Do you know what I mean? Or the defense has sort of come together here and things are just clicking a little bit better. I just wonder if that can become the focus for this team where, okay, at 1-5, let's just put that, let's sweep that under the rug for the time being, and let's just focus on how we can just go out and get better every week, because that's what it's going to take for this team, is that at some point to get over that mountain, maybe it doesn't just click all at once and you just are a great team all of a sudden. You've got to sort of push through some of these things, and maybe it doesn't translate into a playoff season. Maybe it doesn't translate into this amazing record or something, but maybe at the end of the year, if you're playing well and you feel like you've got direction and purpose and an idea and a plan, and you're something that you can sort of get behind, I think you would still feel good come January that hey, we slogged through it this season and we've come out the other end of the tunnel.
Yeah. And basically where the Broncos are now, whether people want to hear it or not, is that it's comparable to where the Lions were before
last season,
their turnaround. And last year the Lions came in, I think, they had played well the year before toward the end of the season, and everyone thought, okay, this is going to be the year. We're going to be great all year. And then they start, 1-6, right?
Yeah, they didn't start great.
And struggled pretty immensely. And they were in a lot of close games. And they didn't have a young quarterback, right? They had a veteran quarterback that's trying to figure things out.
And the culture and the mindset around the team.
Right, they were changing. They were building, but it wasn't being done with C.J. Stroud, with a Bryce Young, which those sorts of teams are in different positions than Denver is with a veteran quarterback.
Yeah.
But the Lions had Jared Goff, a veteran guy that has been around, come to a new team, didn't go well the first year. They were talking about what's the future of that position. After that 1-6 starts, and again, I think there was direction from Dan Campbell and kind of that leadership there.
Yeah.
Had leadership from Jared Goff, from some of the veterans on the team. And you make a late push, and it's not ultimately enough, right? And the Lions, I think, were eliminated because of the Seahawks win on the final weekend of the season.
Yeah.
And what they did, for people who don't remember, they were eliminated in the afternoon, and then they played Sunday Night Football, and they beat Green Bay and kept a division rival out of the playoffs in a game that meant nothing to them.
Yeah.
And that, regardless of what they did this year, I think that set a good tone of hey, we're about playing winning football, and we're about taking steps and building this, no matter, if we're going to hoist a trophy at the end of the year or not. And I think that's the approach in some ways that the Broncos need to take of, hey, there's a lot of football left this year.
Yes.
Phil. For better or worse, there's 11 games left?
Yeah, I mean, it's a long season.
We're a third of the way, essentially, through this season. There's a lot of football still left. Guys are going to have chances to prove themselves, to build something. It's not going to get easier in the short term with the Chiefs and the Bills, but after that, you play a bunch of teams that are, I would say, kind of around your level.
Yeah, and you even see some of these things, like the Giants. They made that a game last night, against the Bills. So, yeah, like the Lions last year, they didn't make the playoffs, but they felt good about the direction they were heading in.
They set a foundation.
Exactly, and I think that can be sort of a new goal for the Broncos at this point. Is like, hey, let's get that foundation. Let's get the concrete poured here, and we can sort of start to build on this. I think that one of the hard things for teams that are struggling is like not having the direction or like having something to build upon. And that's what's happened here for a little while here. Just, changing coaches or changing, systems and changing the belief and like sort of like what you're going to be doing. It's hard to win in this league that way. And so when you have consistency, from the decision makers, that's when you start to get the foundation and the direction, and you can start to build things. And I don't know. I look at some of the comments, like on our YouTube page. I love the comments. I live in there.
Of course.
And, it feels like this fan base has like all kinds of different ideas on how the Broncos can get back to where everybody wants them to. I mean, we want to see the success. The players want to see the success. The alumni want to see that success. Like, Denver is a much better place to live when the Broncos are playing well. There's energy in the city, it feels like. And, I think in order to do that, you've got to have the consistency at the very top and the belief that this is the right direction to head in. And the Broncos can build that the rest of the season, I think. The faith and the belief that, yes, this is the way we want to move forward.
Right. And then, just back to the Lions for 1 second, I don't think they do what they're doing this year, where they're 5-1. I don't know if they've had their bye.
They're rocking.
They're playing well. They're a good football team.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that happens if you don't establish toward the end of last year that you can do that, because I think there's always a period when these teams are building where you've got to figure out one way or another, can we do this or can we not do it? And if they were still at that point coming into this year where it's belief without results, maybe it takes a while to get going. Maybe they're 3-3 this year instead of, maybe you don't go to Arrowhead in week 1 and find a way to win that football game.
Yeah.
And instead they found success here, and you're right, the Broncos have to use that as a blueprint moving forward. I think the thing I go back to is with Sean Payton, he's done it before. And he's done it really kind of 2 separate times, right? Because came into an organization that did not have a lot of success. Obviously, they made the playoffs in year 1 there. A few years later, win a Super Bowl. Helps to have a Hall of Fame quarterback, obviously.
But he's taking that entire team and the whole nature of that team
changed,
flipped.
And then you go to a stretch where they go 7-9, 3 years in a row, and there were conversations: is this the right guy? What are we going to do here? They stuck with him, and they did not end up winning another Super Bowl or appearing in one. But
they were good
3 or 4 years in a row. That was a really good football team.
Yeah,
and he kind of built it in a new way, and it was
different pieces,
with the exception of Breeze, 2 entirely separate football teams, and Breeze was really kind of toward the end there for a couple of the years. And so that's why I think you've just got to find the patience here to believe that he's going to get things right and kind of build it the right way. And listen, it's not fun when you're losing. We heard him say that a few weeks ago. I think it was after the Commanders game. It's not fun when you're losing. It's not going to be fun until you start winning. But I think the message has to be, at some point this is going to happen. It just might take some time. And
there needs to be a tipping point of sorts. And there's no way to get to that like on an accelerated path for this team right now. And I think that sometimes you can feel like, if you're a Broncos fan and you go back and you're like, well, Peyton, they just took a couple of weeks there, they got it clicked, and boom, you're off and running. That's like a different deal. Like that doesn't just like happen always all the time. And so if that's the expectation, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. And that team had, that team had made the playoffs the year before.
Yeah. And Fox coming in the year before, like really flipped the thing again, there from the Josh McDaniel time to his time, like things had started to change.
Right.
In that Tebow year, there was a lot of, they worked their way through a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I think the Bucks, when Brady went there, I think they had either made the playoffs or had gone on a nice run at the end of the year before.
There's a reason why he was like, I'll go there.
Right.
There's a lot of talent. Same with Peyton coming to the Broncos.
Yeah. Some of these other turnarounds can take longer. And
time.
Again, we talk about this all the time. Fans view this as 8 years of difficult football, of it being hard to watch or not having the success you want. It's really the first year that the new ownership group, the Walton Penner family ownership group, has been able to kind of put in place what they want.
Their
and that's
direction.
not to say that the direction can't be modified or changed or anything like that, but last year, obviously, they were with a head coach that had been hired before they got here. And so this is the year one of what their direction is.
Yeah.
And so I know that fans are frustrated, but it's hard to look at it, in my opinion, as year 8 of, because it's been different coaches. It's been different players.
A lot of
it's
change.
been different quarterbacks.
And that doesn't work is sort of what I'm saying.
Yeah, of course.
Doing it like how they've done it so many years here now, it's hard to win that way.
Right. And so you've got to be committed to building this thing. And, I just think over the weekend, maybe the Broncos have gotten a chance to kind of sit back, reflect a little bit, figure out, like you said, what do we want to be about the rest of the season? What's important to us? The trade deadline, I don't think we haven't really mentioned that much yet, but that's coming up here. And, I believe it's 2 weeks from
Tuesday, right?
From Tuesday.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. The Broncos, Sean Payton said you don't need a 4-day summit.
I like that. That was a great answer.
You like a summit.
You like a summit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you don't need a 4-day summit to decide what you're going to do at the trade deadline.
That's different than getting to the top of the mountain.
That's different.
He's not talking about that
He's
kind
not.
of summit.
That could take longer than 4 days.
That could take longer.
Depending on which mountain.
You want a summit at Everest?
Yeah.
That's a different.
If you want to know what 2 + 2 is, you summit.
You summit, exactly. Yeah. Addition.
Right.
4 minus 2, that's not summit.
No. That's minus
difference.
it.
Yeah, minus it.
That's different.
Yeah, that's difference.
Nice.
Yeah, see?
But that was interesting to me is that the focus has to be on Green Bay. And listen, it's entirely possible that the Broncos might make the same decisions in regard to the trade deadline, whether or not they win this weekend or not.
I would think so.
You would assume that decisions are, let's go back to last year, right, against Jacksonville. The Broncos win a football game in London and then trade Bradley Chubb anyway. And I think that's got to be the view, right, that one win
can't change your outlook.
Can't change an entire plan.
Yeah.
And that's not to say the Broncos are going to trade anybody. They might say, hey, we like who we have. We're going to keep moving forward. But I don't think 1 or 2 games should fundamentally alter your choices here. You've got to follow the plan. And if there's a guy that you want here, even if he's on an expiring deal or
you want good players to play for your football team.
A good point.
I think so. If you're a good player and you fit what Sean Payton and George Payton and the ownership group, what they want in a player, then that player should still be part of the
right. Even if you're giving up on capital and even if you're not going to be in the hunt necessarily this year, if that player is a part of your future, you got to hold on to him. And I think that the key here for Denver will be, Sean said, there's no 4-day summit, but you do have to have an idea of what is the plan. Because
what's the plan?
Say the plan, and we don't know this one way or another, there hasn't been any indication, but say you're going to tear it to the ground, right? Then a player who might be here next year but isn't in your long-term plans, well, then maybe you have to decide, okay.
Of course, yeah,
that player, they might be part of us for 2024, but let's go ahead and move on. But if the plan is, hey, we think, we're building, we like some of these core pieces, we think next year, if we just play a little bit better football, improve defensively, find that rhythm again offensively, we can be competitive with this group, then maybe your choices are different there. And so that's where there has to be. Sean Payton talks about the vision for individual players in terms of games. Well, I'm sure he's got a vision that he'll talk about with George Payton, Greg Penner, about what this organization looks like. And but those things are probably percolating.
You got to always be thinking about these things. And he even said, like, look, if calls are coming in, that's sort of George's area, George Payton will then take those to Greg and Sean.
Yep.
And sort of he said that's how you do it. Well, I have two thoughts on this, Aric. One of my thoughts is I think that with your plan, you want like your core talent and your pieces and everything coming together. You want them to be like all good at the same time. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So like if like I think about like the Super Bowl 50 team, like just say for example, all like the big players on that team, they were all like playing at a high level except Peyton Manning, like at that point when they were winning, right? Like DT was at the peak of his powers. Emmanuel was really, really good. That Von Miller was really, really good. DeMarcus was still making plays out there. The whole secondary, like everybody was like playing at a really high level all at the same time. And so like if you have like one guy who's like really good and then like some of the other guys are like just starting their career or like just that difference, then it's harder to sort of like say like, okay, well, what's the overall plan here? How do all these pieces fit together to like ultimately help us win? And so I think that's one thing. The other thing I think about is say like Sean Payton, and he's trying to change the culture here and trying to do things the way that he wants to. The messaging can't always come from him. Like you've got to have guys in that locker room that are echoing the same message that Sean wants. And so part of that is having guys that you can go to and be like, you're my guy. You're the kind of guy we want to build around. You're part of our future here. And having those guys already in the locker room and having that message sort of carry on through players like that is important. So if you start like trading away guys or like getting rid of all of those pieces, then it's really hard to have the culture built that you want. So you got to just sort of weigh each individual case and be like, okay, is this guy a part of our future here? Is he a guy in the locker room that's echoing our message? Is he going to be good when we're really good as an entire team? All of those things, you got to sort of balance it all. And it's extraordinarily difficult. You know what I mean? It's easy when you've got a few pieces and you're really rolling and you're just adding a couple of little pieces every year to like try and win it all. Like when the Broncos brought in a few guys and then you're like, okay, now we're going to win it all. But when you're trying to build it, it's really difficult.
Yeah. Well, and part of that is, you're right about 2015, right? Part of the reason they had so many guys that were at the peak of their powers is because TJ Ward, Emmanuel Sanders, DeMarcus Ware.
You're plugging holes at that point.
Or like, yeah, we'll go there.
We want to play with Peyton.
We want to play with Peyton.
Yeah, we want to do this.
So that helps in terms of getting a bunch of guys. But the reason it becomes difficult to do what you're talking about is in part the lack of stability here over the last few years. And
yes,
you have you have a GM in John Elway drafting guys for Vance Joseph and then Vic Fangio, and then you change GMs and you have him drafting you have George Payton drafting for Vic Fangio, and then George Payton drafting for Nathaniel Hackett, and now Sean Payton and George Payton.
The other thing is like the defense had been really good. That was like Super Bowl defense for a while there. And so you're like, oh, maybe if we bring in a couple guys on offense, we can get back, instead of just always just sort of building a from the foundation.
Right. But and then the last couple of years, you haven't had the high draft picks. And so, if you'd had that level of, if you had 4 more or 5 more day 1 or day 2 picks on this roster, you might feel differently too about where things are. And so it's just
it's a hard thing to do.
Right. And I think the Broncos have to get back to that consistency, the vision that you're willing to pursue for a while, even if it takes more than a year, and just say, hey, here's the long-term vision and strategy, and we're going to get back to this place. It's worth noting as we approach the trade deadline, Phil, the Broncos do not have a second-round pick.
Oh, yeah, for next year.
In 2024. Obviously do have their first-round pick now for the first time since they took Pat Surtain. in 2021.
Yeah.
So just those are, I mean, things to, it shouldn't be your only thing you're thinking about, but
No.
certainly it all fits together.
Yes.
But those are kind of long-term, big picture discussions and issues. And I think that the smaller focus has to be on putting away the start to the season and trying to just play better, improve football and get a win against Green Bay.
Most definitely. And you've seen the Broncos already do some of these things. They've moved on from Randy Gregory. They've moved on from Frank Clark. And Sean Payton talked about that. He said, look, it was in the best interest of everybody for doing this. And, Frank was hoping to play more, and the Broncos were hoping to get more from him. So best interest of both sides there. Randy Gregory, they did the same thing. So, they do have an idea of, what they want this thing to look like, and at the pass rush position, they want Jonathan Cooper and Nick Bodina to play more, and so it does feel like it's not like they're just sitting around there just being like, what are we going to do now? Or what's going to, it does feel like they have direction and they've got goals and they've got things that you want to accomplish. And I think that's what the rest of the season is about, is you still have to have goals and things you're trying to play for and accomplish. Do you know what I mean? Even if the bottom line is the Broncos are 1-5, they still have to have things where they're like, let's see if we can do this and go out and try and accomplish that. And you have to do that every single week.
Yeah. Or which players are going to be part of this? Which guys can we count on to start the next year? I mean, those are conversations. If you're not going to make the playoffs, you hope would happen later in the year, that you're having this conversation in week 16 instead of the end of week 6. But that's where the Broncos are at the moment. And maybe they win a few games and we can talk more about, hey, can they get themselves back in it? But for now, the focus has to be on that individual improvement and, what are the goals here of just building this thing? And Randy and Frank, I think, were guys that, if you were in contention and had
That'd be great pieces
chance,
to have.
Yeah, you added Frank in the offseason thinking, hey, we need a pass rusher to help us compete with Kansas City in this division. And things didn't play out the way they wanted to. And so you move on. But again, you've got to, like you said, you've got to have the goal and have the right mentality and find a way to still play, to try to find a way to play good football moving forward and have that small focus amidst all the bigger conversations.
I agree. And we'll look much more into this Green Bay game.
Yeah.
Coming up on Thursday, going to be a big test. The Packers got a lot of talent there, and Jordan Love is a guy that they're building around. It seems like so. Should be good. Should be a good game for the Broncos, I think.
Yeah, and again, a chance. They've got a couple of good running backs. It'll be a chance to prove that the improvement against the run was not just kind of a one-off, and that they're able to do that moving forward. And,
playing at home, that's something Sean Payton was like, hey, we got to play better at home. There are things that the Broncos can focus on trying to do this week. So.
Right.
All right. Well, I don't know where Ben Swanson was.
No, I don't.
He had the whole weekend to try and get back, but not enough. How much time does it take?
Disappointing, really.
I heard that he was walking.
How many excused absences do you get?
Do you think you could walk from Kansas City to here in a weekend?
No.
You don't think so?
It's like an 8-hour drive, isn't it?
Yeah. How long would that take? I wonder how long do you think, if you were just walking, how long do you think you could go before you just collapsed?
Oh, no stops? Would I have water?
Yeah, you have water. But you're just walking. You're not running. But you're walking flat.
Okay. And not like, oh, I'm tired, but just collapse.
Collapse. Not tired, like, oh, it'd be nice if I could just sit down. No, I'm saying like you've given everything you had to give.
I feel like you could get past the 10-hour mark, right?
I agree. I think that I could.
I don't know. Maybe somewhere I feel like around
maybe 12
hours, you'd probably
collapse.
Yeah.
I
don't know.
I think that.
Who knows?
I've thought about that before, though.
I
wondered if I just got on a treadmill and just started going. No speed.
Like you can run a marathon, right? And you're not collapsing as long as you're in decent shape. And it might take you a while, but 4 4.5 hours.
If you're running, the
Yeah.
26.2.
And so that's more physically exhausting than
just walking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if maybe if you just
Maybe
paced
18
yourself,
hours?
if
I
you
don't
could
know.
just keep going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you were just really taking your time.
Right.
I don't
Well,
know.
you figure a normal, you walk a mile, it's about, 20 to 25 minutes?
Yeah. If you're just walking.
If you're just strolling.
A stroll.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's interesting.
You could definitely walk a marathon. So
I think I could. Yeah.
so that right there is like
26.
13 hours.
Yeah.
You're saying like a 30-minute mile.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, you could keep going a little bit longer.
Yeah. I think I could do I think we could both do that.
Yeah.
So if you, and then,
Would you be able to carry me for a while, or I have to walk?
no, I'd carry you.
Okay. Well, then,
of
in that
course,
case,
Yeah.
might cut down on your time, but it would extend mine.
Yeah, exactly.
And after you collapse, I could just keep going.
Then you would just pick it up from
Yeah.
there. Yeah,
I'd
exactly.
have a nice little
Very
rest.
nice teamwork.
Put you in a wheelbarrow and move forward.
Not so much you doing anything for me, but me just
Right.
giving
Acts
it
of
off.
service.
Exactly. That. Yeah, exactly.
Important.
So maybe Swanson will make it back by
Maybe. Yeah. He's got a small stride. He's just a little guy.
That is true. Yeah. It's just
that's
a
not going to
little-
help.
It does take longer.
He has to take 3 steps for every one of yours.
Yeah, exactly. But mine takes more energy to do the
Yeah.
stride.
That's true.
It's all about the same.
Hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us. We'll be back Thursday with a much more comprehensive preview of the Packers game. Until then, for Aric DiLalla, I am Phil Milani. You've been listening to The Neutral Zone.